You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This is episode 712 of the Dressage Radio Show, official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products and the Murdoch Method. On this week's episode, we're talking to Jessica Kaczmarek, who's got some great tips about care for your boots. And then Jodie Kelly joins us for a chat about things to think about when shopping for your next horse. After that, Wendy from the Murdoch Method is on. And then for the trainer tip, Reese and I talk about finding a good dressage trainer.
This is Reese Koppler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Hey, Phil, how are ya?
I'm actually doing pretty good this week. Reese, I don't know whether you've noticed yet or whatever, but I have a functioning tooth back. So
yes! Well, you've been so touchy about it. Like, everybody, I have not been talking to Phil about this because he's been touchy and he wants to sound good. And I didn't want to hurt your feelings. So I was not ever saying anything. I didn't even laugh when we saw you in person. Like, this was a real problem and I felt bad for you. So I'm so glad you're better. Like last week you had like the surgery and I had to make you stop talking about it because it was gross. I'm glad you're back and I'm glad you're doing okay. So I'm glad you're back all the way.
I'm not fully functional yet, but I at least got a kind of a denture retainer, which I think it looks fine, but at least I can say S's now, right? Dressage.
Well, it wasn't. We would all tell you it didn't sound so bad, but everybody, we had to do our intro like 15 times. So I was like, get it together, Phil. I think actually I took one because I was like, okay, it's not that bad.
I did it for a week because it was episode 707 of Dressage Radio Show. I was not having it. So
he was not having it. So I just jumped in. See, this is teamwork. This is why you have a great partner who can help you when you need it. So this is why we're a team. And there was definitely laughing, everybody. I mean, inside, because he really was struggling. So Paul and I were nice and we just, we worked around it. So I'm so glad you're feeling better. It makes me happy. And
so now just like 4 months while my jawbone's graft to the new implant and then I can get a crown put on. This has been
I know it's been serious.
Process.
I didn't even know. That's so gross. I can't. Okay. So we're going to talk about horses. I had so we had our first kind of horse show of the year, funny enough, because I think I shared
Kentucky horse show of the year.
Kentucky horse show. Right. I did one horse show in Florida. It didn't go particularly well, but anyways, I digress. I brought a different horse to the horse show and it went awesome. Yeah, no, some days you win, some days you didn't. In Florida, I was not winning. And so we went back to the drawing board. That was with a different horse. He was having some ulcer issues, but this was a different horse. And this horse, he's a horse in training and I love this horse. And, I have been very strategic when we show this horse and when we bring him out. And he's a horse that needs a lot of confidence. And I felt like we worked really hard in Florida and the owners were awesome. And the horse was great. And I felt really confident. This was a kind of a smaller show. It was on a Wednesday. It's a recognized show. It's a wonderful show we have here in the area. It's about an hour from my house, but it was great. And the horses have to haul there. And he was just awesome. And I think sometimes you just have little victories where, I've been very strategic with this horse. I brought him out 3rd level. So it was a big jump. Last year, he showed 1st level. I was pretty strategic about that. I always make people struggle through 2nd level at least once in their life. For me, I felt like with this horse, bringing him out 2nd level, he was ready. And we worked really hard in the flying changes in Florida. So for him he now thinks flying changes. So I didn't feel like it was the right thing to bring him out 2nd level. And my gamble worked. It was great. He went out and he did his test, super confident, 3rd one. That was fun. It was a really big victory for the whole team. And I felt like, yeah, sometimes the plan works, a lot of times the plan does not.
Right.
And you kind of come back. Yeah. That plan yesterday worked and I felt really, really good about it. And so did the owners. And I even texted my coach, which is why we have coaches. And, he helped me work really hard. Scott Hassler, we love Scott. And he helped me a lot this winter in Florida with this horse. And I trained, I even decided I was learning a lot. I even paid for some training myself. Sometimes your trainer can do that. Like I felt like I needed some help with him and it was great. And the horse was awesome. And it was a good day. And
wonderful.
I had some students.
That makes me so happy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good day. And then my students, again, I think going to a horse show, it's always, like I said, on that horse, the gamble worked. We could have been having a very different discussion, but I was very systematic about going. And then I had a student who is wonderful, also went to Florida. We didn't do as much horse showing in Florida. The horse had some allergies. The rider had some issues, some back issues kind of thing. So we didn't do a lot of horse showing down there. And I think, when horses are green, this is a really, really good young horse. He's very well behaved, but a bag flew out of the judge's booth right in front of him. And that's tough. That would be tough even on my seasoned horses, right? To have something like that happen. He was really confident around the ring. I was thinking, yes, here we go. And it's the first time down the center line, right? And this horse has traveled a lot, but that's really scary, right? And it's just a good reminder of young horses can be young horses. He was really good. He really kept it together because he had every right to be silly. It was scary, but he was a little bit distracted. And I think it's just a good reminder with young horses that happens, number one. That would have, even any seasoned horses, that would have been tricky. But sometimes, she was so ready. She had such a good plan. She'd really trained. And then sometimes that happens and it is hard to get back to your plan. Does that make sense? She was like, I had my plan and that happened. And I was like, you know what? Sometimes that happens. I don't know how else to tell you.
Kind of plan on the unplannable,
uncontrollable, control the controllables,
or whatever. If something happens, i.e., a bag floats in front of him, or
attacking horse.
We've all had all these different scenarios. Turkeys show up, blah blah blah. You just say, okay, what is my strategy? Yep. What am I gonna do? Right?
Yes. And that's what we talked about after. Yeah. It was okay, we had a really good plan. You were looking good. Oh, and the other thing was the horse show was running it ended up running 2 rides behind. So it was about 15 minutes. And when she went in, it was a ride. As she went in, it was longer. So that is part of horse showing now. So I said to her, okay, we're going to change our prep a little bit. And, because everything has been so controlled and good. So that was tricky for her, right? It'd be tricky for anyone, right? Even Phil and I, even seasoned competitors, that's difficult, right? But that happens. And when I was in Florida, I literally by the tent, the waiters, they dropped, it sounded like they dropped 85,000 plates. They probably dropped 2 plates, but it was so noisy. You couldn't miss it, and my horse was like, what? I knew that tent was scary. And I was like, okay, yep, I'm ready for that. So I think that's part of horse showing too. And that's just part of, when you haven't had the horse down the center line and had a lot of experience. While the difference was with the horse that I was showing, I showed him all last year, quite a lot. So we had been to this venue, it'd been a year, but he'd been there. And I knew he was going to be a little looky down with the judge's booth. So I just planned on staying down there a second. We did not go ahead of time to school at the horse show. Just didn't work. It's far and there's no real place to stay. And we made a decision to not go. Would that horse have been better? Sure. But still, even if you'd done all that prep, things happen. So I think it was just a good reminder. And I wanted to kind of talk about it tonight, because as you're getting ready for show season, you don't always make it perfect when you train. And that's what I told this rider. I said, okay, I don't have an outdoor arena at my farm, but I have some lovely fields. So we're going to warm up outside. Then we're going to go into the arena and try to mock a little bit more of it being different and changing the arenas and, taking a break for 10 minutes while we are doing, before whatever. So I will say that, don't be afraid to or stop and change your coat,
change it up a bit. And I mean, and just remember, with all the tension and all the stuff at the horse show, your job is to give the horse a good experience. So, we're not punishing horses or, being mean to them because they didn't fulfill our expectations or, whatever. I think, you're trying to give a good experience to them so they can gain more confidence.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, I just thought I would share that experience. And, again, as you are more experienced with your horse or you have more experience, that's perfect. So, it's just, that's just part of it. And even sometimes experience, things happen. I just think as you get, you have more miles in the ring, and that's kind of the difference between a professional rider and an amateur rider, right? Like at the end of the day, professionals a lot of times have just more opportunities to get in the ring and have more just times under the belt of having a horse spook at this or that, or, we do ride horses and things happen. And that's what I was saying in Florida. We didn't have a great experience with that horse. I actually had not had to withdraw a horse in years, but this particular horse, he just lost it. And I did my trot work and I did my walk work and I thought, okay, I got it together. I went to go canter and this horse just lost it. And that particular horse, I've shown him at the national championships he's a lower level horse, but I've shown him a lot. And so for him to just lose his marbles, I just put my hand up and I just said, tomorrow's another day. And the judge was great. The judge let me have a couple minutes that I could just trot him around and let him look and take a deep breath. And, it happens to the best of us. And I think when you have it happen, that was in front of all people getting judges license. The bleachers were full. I was like,
judging clinic. Yeah.
Awesome. But my horse he's not my horse. He's owned by a dear client. And, he just lost it just wasn't his day. Anyway, we went home and he needed some medical care, some ulcer stuff, but I didn't know before it happened. And I think that happens. And again, that's experience, just to say today is not our day. That's okay. But it was good experience. We tried to make it as good as we could. And then, so it all happens. I think that's what we also say. So on the days that it's a little bit of a victory, and Phil knows this horse, and it was a great victory for the team, it makes me smile, and because there's days that it's not. So, but as you get ready for horse show season, I hope that helps, and try to work on controlling the uncontrollables.
Vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant that supports healthy muscle and nerve function by limiting cellular damage. Green grass is the best source of vitamin E for horses, but most horses don't spend enough time grazing to meet their needs. Hay, grain, and winter pasture provide little to no natural vitamin E. To ensure your horse's vitamin E requirements are met, choose Elevate. Elevate contains a readily available source of natural vitamin E. Elevate is cost-effective and easy to feed. To learn more about Elevate, visit the Kentucky Performance Products website at kppusa.com.
Well, tonight I'm really excited to have Jessica Kaczmarek. She's my new friend. We met at a clinic I was hosting or giving. How are you, Jessica? Welcome to the show.
Hi. I'm super, super excited to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. Jessica, tell us a little bit about yourself and the company you own.
Very good. My name is Jessica Kaczmarek, as you said, and I own the company Above and Beyond Custom Equestrian, and I work in partnership with a distinguished rider. I'm a representative for Kingsley, boots made in Portugal, but the company is based in the Netherlands. And then there are a couple of other brands that I'm able to represent through the distinguished rider, but I started working or selling boots primarily with Kingsley. And I am an FEI level amateur dressage rider. And so it was a really exciting adventure for me to take this on and learn more about boots. And I love fashion. So it was a perfect fit.
I love it. Well, we were chatting after the clinic. You were, putting away your boots, and you had lots of them there, lots of fun options. But you were chatting with me about boot care. And I said, Jessica, Phil and I have done this show for coming close to 11 years, and we've never talked about how to take care of your boots properly. So I'm going to hand it back to you and tell us a little bit about, I mean, you gave me some great tips in literally 2 seconds when we were standing there. So I'm going to let you get started with those.
The first thing that first 2 things I like to tell people is you need to waterproof your boots and you need to take care of your zippers, particularly as trainers, because trainers are so incredibly hard on their boots. And it's really simple. It's really easy. It doesn't take a ton of time. And particularly because I know so many people, as much as we're supposed to, do not take their boots off when we go in the wash stall. And water is number one enemy for leather and for your boots. So I always tell everybody to invest in a really good waterproofing spray. And before you even put your brand new boots on, spray the foot of your boot, paying close attention to the seams. If you have a toe cap, making sure that that toe cap is covered. And then the seams at the heel and near the zipper and around the base of the sole, because that really just helps to protect the boot from breaking down. Because the longer that boot and that leather is wet, the faster it's going to disintegrate. And then taking care of your zippers is equally as important because, as you know, zippers are one of the first things to go when you ride in your boots all day long. And so the most simple thing that you can do is to keep a clean toothbrush in your groom box or anywhere that is going to be close to where you're taking your boots off at the end of the day. You get it damp. You scrub up and down the length of your zipper, and then you can use either clipper oil, which is the quick fix, and run a bead of that up and down your zipper before you have unzipped it, or use a zipper glide. And I sell a product through the Christian Low Leather Care line that's called Zipper Glide. It looks like a little stick of deodorant for your zippers, and it works really well also.
Yeah, I think that there's a great need for, this discussion because we all have these boots, whether you've got a pair to ride in daily or whether you've got a show pair. I mean, they're not cheap, so you want to really take care of them. And there's some great products out there. I know I have one at the barn that sort of, it includes a little brush and some lubricant for the zippers all in one.
Yes,
So
yes. I believe Leovet is one of the companies that has a nice zipper cleaner and brush as well. There's a few different companies out there that have them. The other thing I like to use, do you know what a can of air is? You use them to spray the dirt out of your keyboard at your computer.
Yeah.
Yes. You can use that as well to blow the dust out of your zippers. And so if you've had a particularly long day and standing in the dirt all day, it helps to just clear some of that debris out, and it helps it helps lengthen the life of the zipper.
Yeah, see, this is awesome because let's be real, I've never done this ever. So I love this. I didn't even know that was a thing. Honestly, guys, This is why Jessica's here. Thank you, Jessica. I'm like, I even have a can of air in my tack room. I use it on my MagnaWave. So what? This is great. I'm so thankful. I'm going to have to Amazon all of this stuff right now.
Yes. And there are another suggestion too, as far as avoiding wet boots. When I ride in the summer, my boots are soaked. When I'm done, boot dryers, they're a really simple and easy Amazon purchase. You put your boot on upside down and it blows air into your boot. That's a great option to try and dry your boots out. Cedar boot trees. And I also really like cotton-filled boot trees. And I try to have a couple pair of those. I, of course, as a boot rep, may or may not have an entire collection of boots. But prior to this, I had my schooling pair and I had my show pair, and they had to last because I could not afford for them not to. So I had a couple different ways that I kept my boots dry, and I had 2 different sets of the cotton boot trees and then a cedar boot tree, and would switch them out when they came out of a wet pair of boots just to keep again, keep that boot dry. And I also really encourage, if you're able to get your hands on a leather care product with tea tree oil in it, tea tree oil helps to combat bacteria. And when we have a sweaty boot and we take it off and throw it in our tack room and don't clean it and let it flop over sideways and whatever it is we're going to do to our poor boots, the tea tree oil, if you wipe it on the inside, helps to combat the mold that can occur, particularly in humid environments, which, everybody down south has to fight humidity. So it's hard to keep your boots good and dry.
I loved this tip. I was like, Jessica, where were you 2 months ago when I was in Florida? Like, this is awesome. Tea tree oil, like genius. That's so smart. I love that. Jessica hooked me up. She's like, you need this. And clearly you need some help. So no, I think it's fantastic because I am notoriously hard on boots and I go through them super fast. And now I'm like, I wonder if I did what Jessica told me.
I wonder why.
That would help. Yeah, I wonder why. But no, this is fantastic.
And I'll be very honest with you. I think any trainer, there are so many really great boots out there, and I am a huge promoter of a quality boot, no matter what it is you love, but trainers are murderers of boots.
Yeah.
And so it is super, super hard to keep a trainer in a boot for much longer than a year or so because you're hard on them. So leather choice is also a really important factor when you're looking at schooling boots, because there are different leather choices out there that make a better, more long-lasting boot. And so taking care of your zippers, keeping things waterproofed. And for a trainer, I usually tell them you need to be waterproofing that boot once a week, or you need to have a fabulous working student who knows how to take meticulous care of your boots for you and have them on top of that for you. Because I think, just that little bit of care makes a huge difference in how long they last.
And just not speaking for a friend, asking for myself, what kind, you're talking about what leather. So talk to me about what do I need here?
All right. Well, there are multiple types of leather out there. There's the pretty patent leather and the pretty polished leather. And there is your traditional black or matte type leather. Kingsley has multiple different types of leather. De Niro, I know, makes most of their wrought leathers. Wrought is W-R-A-T, come water resistant. But for Kingsley, I can speak of our Paxton leather and then our Gaucho leathers, which Gaucho leather is a waterproof leather, and our Paxton leather is a little more textured and is a really durable leather. And so the worst schooling leather in the world is patent leather. It's beautiful, but it doesn't really stretch. It doesn't really breathe. And the minute you scrape it, it's impossible to fix. It stays scraped forever. And that is also the same for brushed leather or polished leather. It's not quite as shiny as patent, but it's shinier than your basic black boot. And so they're beautiful leathers, and they make, for schooling boots, they make a nice accent, but they're a very poor choice for an everyday boot, unless you have multiple boots, which many trainers do, and many amateurs do too. And so when you are able to rotate your boots out, it makes a lot more sense to have that pretty fancy leather. But for an everyday tough boot, avoiding polished leather and patent leather is really, really important. And then if you can find a leather that has either waterproofing, like again, De Niro is a brand that has a wrought leather that it comes already, or like I said, the Kingsley has the Gaucho leather. Those just are going to stand up a little bit better to everyday use, because you're not going to take your boots off in the wash stall. Let's be real.
Yeah, no, we're not. So no, I love it. I'm like, I'm not like.
Right. And so, I mean, I have a list of things that you should avoid doing with your boots, but realistically, it's really hard to do that. Even as an amateur, if I have multiple things to do, I'm just going to leave my boots on. But a lot of people, and I will say there are a lot of people who take beautiful care of their boots, and I have the utmost respect and gratitude for them. But it is tough. I mean, trainers work really hard, and you work all day. and you're riding multiple horses and teaching multiple lessons, and the last thing you want to have to worry about is peeling your boots on and off and cleaning them. So being able to clean your boots is a really important skill. And if it's something that you know you don't have time for, and I love cleaning boots. I love cleaning and polishing boots. I'm well known for this. There's videos of me long before I started doing this, teaching kids how to polish their boots and clean their boots appropriately. So having somebody in your barn that's good at that is also really going to help, for a trainer anyway, extend the life of your boots for you.
I love it. Well, Jessica, if our listeners have any more questions or want to find you online, how do they do that?
I am found online. You can find me on Facebook at Above and Beyond Custom Equestrian is my Facebook page. My website is currently under construction, but you can go to thedistinguishedrider.com for leather care, for information on multiple different brands of boots. She has a 7-page boot care guide, and that's actually the boot care guide that I give to my clients when they purchase boots from me. And she has some really great tips as well. That is my business partner, Marissa. And so until my poor website is up and raring to go, you can absolutely visit me on Facebook or check out thedistinguishedrider.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
We're the Healthy Critters crew. I'm Tigger.
I'm Patty.
And I'm Coach Jen.
If you're a horse lover, dog lover, cat lover, llama lover, chicken lover, parrot lover, paw and hooves and feathers lover, Healthy Critters is for you. We have fascinating guests, nutrition tips, information on various critters, and the only talking Pomeranian dog on the radio.
Hello, everyone.
Join us for our bi-monthly laughter-filled romps on HRN.
Brought to you by BioStar US.
Well, tonight we are so happy to have back, by popular demand, Jodie Kelly from Jodie Kelly Dressage, FEI rider and trainer. Jodie, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I am so lucky. I've been able to hang out with you in the last couple of weeks down here in Wellington. So, of course, on our night off, we're in between 5-star Grand Prix and the freestyle night. I said, do you mind to talk to us on the show? Because I just think we have some fun things to talk about together. And my first is, you've been down here in Wellington and you have your wonderful horse Grayton with you, and kind of made me think about, when I was thinking about the show, of, how do you pick a Grand Prix horse? He is really coming on as a Grand Prix horse. It's his first year. So I just wanted to kind of have us, all three of us, talk about, when we look at horses, because I think we're all looking for FEI horses, how did you pick him? Because you've had him since he was a baby guy. So I wanted to kind of talk to you about that. So can you tell us about Grayton and your adventures with him, and we'll go from there.
Yes. So I have all of my Grand Prix horses I've gotten as 3-year-olds and have trained all the way up. I love the babies. I love the youngsters. I truly love the journey. I love being in the Grand Prix ring, but I love the process of the whole training process as well. So I do like the young horses. I think when you're looking, I think one of the most important things is to, whether you're looking yourself or whether you have somebody looking for you, is to have somebody that at least is, that you're going to bounce it off of, that knows your riding really well, and I think can collaborate with you. I think that's really, really important, especially if you have somebody looking for your horse for you. And that's where I'm really lucky. My trainer from Holland, Swan, who I've been riding with him since I was 11. So I have found a majority of my personal horses through him. And he and I are at the point now where he kind of keeps an eye out for horses for me, and will call me when he sees something that he thinks is something maybe for me that kind of will check all boxes. I personally like them a little bit hotter. I'm not one to really go for the ones that are too quick and zippy, I guess. I'm big, I'm tall, so I like the bigger horses. So I usually have an eye for the ones that have like the big power. Of course, they have to be sharp enough, they have to be quick enough, but I'm you have kind of the luxury models and then the sports car type. And I feel like I kind of go more for the luxury model.
I get
so
you.
A grand touring. Yeah. A grand touring.
I love me a Suburban.
Because I just remember I was looking when I went to try Grayton, Tuan had found one other one for me before that. And I went over and I stood up on the mounting block. And granted, it's a 3-year-old, so no big deal. But I stood up on the mounting block and it snapped back and took off and was wide-eyed. And it took us a little while to catch him because somebody else was holding him. But when I stepped up, he snapped and so to me, that kind of reaction is not, that fiery thing is not so much for me, but I like the ones that have that big power and kind of more the elegance. It's just kind of my style. But then the other thing that I really look for, I'll never forget, I grew up going to Holland and looking at endless horses with Tuan when I was young and just watching them. And I'll never forget, I walked into a barn in Germany with him one day and we were there to look at this young horse and it was already in the indoor. We looked at it, walked in, and it had these magnificent gaits. And I still remember it was a gray horse. And I was going down the long side with his knees up to his eyeballs. And it was this huge canter, this huge trot, magnificent. And he looked at me and he said, "Do you like that one?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "That's never going to be an FEI horse." And I was like, "What could you possibly be talking about?" He had such big gaits and such beautiful way of going in my 13-year-old mind. And we really analyzed it. And he said, "This horse is very cool. It's very beautiful, but its gaits were so big." He said, "He's never going to be able to collect back to the smaller gaits." He said, "So when everything at the young horse stuff," which I think sometimes you see that in the young horse division, the horses that really excel, I'm not saying all of them by any means, but a lot of the young horses that excel in the young horse test don't always make it to the FEI, particularly to the Grand Prix, because the huge extreme movements that the young horses often have that get the big points in the lower levels in the young horse stuff are not always the ones capable of collecting. But that was such a pivotal moment for me when I was standing. I still remember the indoor. I still remember all of it. And it's one thing that it's not going to be a Grand Prix horse. So you look for the ones with the really good quality gaits that are in the middle, that have the adjustability, that you can see that there's growth and power to go bigger, but that there's also enough compact way in the movement that you can see the future for the pirouette canter and the piaffe and passage gaits too,
Yeah, I'm so glad that you started talking about this because it is about, adjustability.
Yeah.
Lots of horses will just go big, right? But how many of them will go smaller and just, even if they're not as fancy, you have to at some point assess whether the horse is gonna be able to get small.
Yeah, exactly. I always say that the pendulum has to be able to swing both ways.
Yeah.
And it needs to swing both ways equally. However big you make them, they need to be able to go equally as small. So maybe they can't go super, super big, but if they can go equally that small in the other direction, then that to me is way more quality for a Grand Prix horse than the ones that have those big, that can, do extended trot and extended canter for a 9,
And guys, don't you think, it depends on what you're looking for. I think the three of us on a call, we're looking for Grand Prix horses, right? I don't really want to ride this. I mean, I've done the small tour, but at the end of the day, I really want a Grand Prix horse. So I think that's important to know too, because if you were looking for a young horse or maybe a Prix St. George horse, the horse that you saw in your mind, maybe that was the right horse. I just wanted to say that because I think that's important to know sort of what you're looking at when you're looking for a youngster. I'm going to ride a Prix St. George for sure. I'm going to ride the I1.
Yeah, of course.
At the end,
absolutely. You have to go through the process. That's part of the journey, but you have to know what your end goal is for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So Phil, I think Jodie did a phenomenal job. Is there anything else that you look for in a prospect as you're looking for them?
Well, I mean, just one of the things that goes, part and parcel of that adjustability is also, are they back movers? Do they move everything through, from the hips through the back? Yeah. and
Mm-hmm.
into kind of a lifting with her, or do they get a little bit hollow and just start lifting the legs? How do they create the leg movement? Is it through the back and suspension, or are they just and then the legs are going everywhere, and that's a bit of a problem to try to contain, and it's problematic anyways if the horse just kind of pushes away from the rider's weight and just gets going, spectacular leg movement, but not really through the back, and that's a bit of a problem to try to retrain, or something like that. A lot of horses at the auctions will be leg movers, but are they really with the rider? No, they're pushing away from the rider through their hips and through their back, because it's hard to move in a spectacular way. And I think that you just have to spend your time on all the real basic stuff. Is the horse really with the rider and moving through the back, or are they just big, and then screech to a halt and in no way really moving through themselves, in a good way.
Yeah. And I think along those lines, too, that it's important, like when you're looking at a young horse, that what their natural instinct is will always be. I think a lot of people think, oh, well, they'll grow out of that, or you can train them out of that or whatever. But like what you said, like that natural instinct of the way they use their body as a young horse, that always will be. Things will get stronger. Things will get better in obviously in certain ways and areas through training, but what their natural instinct is always there, which again is why I comment about that horse that jumped away from the mounting block. Like, sure, it's a young horse, no big deal. But like that quick, fearful reaction to me is a natural reaction for them that's always in there. So like, that's why I look at those things with a young horse too. Like, how do they handle somebody stepping up on the mounting block? Are they inquisitive? Because that, whatever their first instinct, natural reaction, although they'll age and mature and all of those things, but to me, that's always still a little bit in them. For better or for worse.
I was just going to say that in Europe, over here in North America, we love our mounting blocks. In Europe, you may try a horse that has never seen a mounting block in its life,
Yeah.
And at the auctions, they will just throw up, throw up, even if it's a tall horse and a short person, they just, give a leg up and get going. So
off you go.
I mean, that can be a bit of a unexpected reaction to having to stand at a block. And, that's one of the things that I teach my young horses, right from when they're like 2 and 3 years old, is just stand by the mounting block, whatever, I'll give some sugar, but they've got to be relaxed about the mounting process for sure.
Yeah. Well, yes. No, and I think that's such a good point. And for me, character and personality actually plays a part for me, because I know I'm going to spend a lot of time with this horse over the years. So sometimes I've seen horses and, I just don't connect with them. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
A horse in training, right? It's not my horse. Like, I'm here to do a job and I'm going to be kind and love it, but it's not going to be my horse. For me, when I find my horses, the personality has to mesh as well. Not only do all the other things. That's why it's so difficult to find a horse that you can find at 3 and make it a Grand Prix horse. Like, there's so many different factors.
How about personality playing into buying a foal? I mean, that was something that Meredith and I bought a foal during the pandemic. Everybody was buying puppies and we bought a horse, but that was just one of the things. It's just like, Meredith, she was like, "Oh, is that a good enough mover?" I'm like, "I don't care." She came up and she snuggled and she didn't want anything to do with her mom, and that's what's so important for me, anyways.
No, it's a huge factor, huge factor.
Yeah. So I think that's important. So, and I do think it's really important to see horses, like if you buy them in Europe or here, go actually see that horse in a stall, loose in a stall. Because
watch them get tacked up, and all of that stuff, because you're the one who's going to have to do that. And if they're rearing on the cross size, you better know that, right? So
absolutely.
Send it to Phil. No, I'm just kidding.
No, thank you.
No, but yeah, I mean, I'm not, oh my God. I'd be like, what is that? Why is it doing that? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want any part of that. Yeah. No, but I think that's important. If you like that, that's awesome. But I want no part of that. So no, I think it's great. So Jodie, anything that we haven't covered? I think it's a lot of information, but it can be done. It's what the three of us do all the time now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I also think too that, when you buy these horses, especially when you buy them young, I think it's important. I'm a huge advocate for the horses also determining if they're actually going to make it, because let's be honest, not every horse that we, even with an educated eye, not all the 3-year-olds that we buy actually do make it to the Grand Prix. And I feel like it's really important that as trainers that we represent the horses to the best of our ability to be who they can be the best at, I guess, if that makes sense. Like I have a horse, for instance, that I've had since he was a young horse. It's a client's horse. And we got him all the way up to the Grand Prix. He absolutely could do the Grand Prix, but he did not want to. Like he just straight up didn't want to. He had the talent for it. He had all the ability, and we got him up to it, and he could do it. He could clock out the ones. He could do the cross massage, but it wasn't in him. And so we dropped him down. A kid has him now. He's doing the small tour with him. He's the happiest horse alive. And, like we could have kicked him through the Grand Prix and it could have been done, but it just, to me, it wasn't in the horse's best interest. And I really think that's important. I have another mare that I bought as a foal. So again, you have great hopes for him. And I got her to the Prix St. George, and her heart wasn't in it. She had all the things, and it was coming along, and probably I could have wrestled her around a Grand Prix. I think I could have gotten the job done. But at the end of the day, she's really happy doing the lower levels, and she excels at it, and it doesn't seem like a struggle for her. So I think that's a huge part that we as trainers really need to respect the horses for, not just what they can do, but what their desire is also. I think that's really important, that sometimes gets overlooked. Like, okay, this one has the talent. This one has the mind even, because a lot of those horses that you can really kick them through, they've got the mind to go, yeah, okay, fine. But if you truly take the time to listen to the horse, some of them they just don't, their heart's not in it,
Yeah. And that's tough.
That's well said.
We've all had that horse. Yeah. And that's tough.
Yeah. And it's a tough break when you get that far and you go, you know what? I just don't want to do it. But I think you have to respect that.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, not all horses are going to be Grand Prix horses or stay Grand Prix horses or want to continue being Grand, it's such a small margin. I think that's why, there's only so many in the world that will end up getting there. They also, we haven't talked about soundness and veterinary issues. And I mean, that's literally a whole nother discussion.
That's a whole nother subject. But I mean with the horses that stay sound, that are capable, that it's our responsibility. When something happens medically, then you have to, we have no choice, and it's a heartbreak, but they take themselves out of it essentially. But it's that responsibility for us to listen to them and go, you know what, this is a healthy, happy, sound horse that really just wants to do the small tour, and we have to know when to walk away and leave that alone.
Yeah, it's difficult. It is a hard thing. So, to see you in Grayton in that Grand Prix, I mean, it just makes me so happy for you.
We still have a long way to go. Just because we've made it down that center line a few times doesn't mean we've got it. I feel like we're starting all over again.
Yes, and that's the other thing when you get to the Grand Prix. You're basically
you just are starting. We're just scratching the surface.
Yeah. Oh, wow, it's so fun to watch you guys, and I'm gonna keep being your biggest cheerleader. And
thank you.
we sat and watched several Grand Prix last night together, which was actually really fun to really sit down and watch the Grand Prix ridden by professional riders. If you get that out, do it, because you learn so many things. We saw the best canter zigzag we've ever seen. Ashley Holzer rode it last night. It was phenomenal. So, you keep learning and doing, and we're just excited for you. And Jodie, how can our listeners find you online to watch your journey as well?
I am on Facebook, Jodie Kelly, or Jodie Kelly Dressage. And then I'm actually in the middle of revamping my website. So JodieKellyDressage.com is not active quite this second, but it will be again, and with a whole new whole new facelift, actually.
That's so exciting. Congratulations, Jodie. And we can't wait to watch your journey.
Thank you. Thanks.
Well, tonight we are so excited to have Wendy Murdoch back on the show. Hi, Wendy. How have you been?
Oh, it's been an interesting month since I talked to you last. Has it been a month? I don't know.
I was actually just thinking that. I'm like, I love when Wendy comes on. I was like, didn't we just have Wendy on? And I think it's been a very fast month.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
There's been so much happening this month. It's been crazy.
It's been busy. You have been particularly busy. Well, you are always busy. We love hearing about Where's Wendy. You know, it's like
Wendy's adventures. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, where's Waldo? Where's Wendy? So where has Wendy been this month?
I just got back from Equine Affair in Ohio. Had a great time. Oh, by the way, I saw Glenn and did a little spot on HRN in the morning.
I thought you guys would have been, able to hook up there.
Yep. Went over there and had an interview. Had a great time. Did Surefoot. Did my 50 fixes for riding, and then I have a lecture. I call it Balance, Posture, Behavior, and the crowd was awesome. They loved it. I had standing room only for that lecture, and it's just, of course, I entertain the crowd. I have to.
Yeah, you do. Wendy entertained my college class, which is like a miracle. Because normally I'm like, Wendy, they usually are asleep.
They were trying to fall asleep, but I wouldn't.
They were, and Wendy's like, everybody up, and I was like, oh, I love her so much. She made the whole class like they were like, what? Oh, half asleep.
Is that a Feldenkrais demonstration or?
I did a little Feldenkrais demo. Yep, and I just if you get people up out of the chair so they feel something, and then put them back down. 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, get them out of their chair. Get them up.
Okay, I don't have that patience. No,
my horse demos too. I do the same thing. I make them stand up in the stands and do something with them, and I entertain the crowd and keep doing Surefoot underneath the horses. It's awesome.
See, this is why Wendy would be a better college professor than me. I'm just like, wake up, everyone. Where's your coffee? Let's go. Pay attention.
I don't know if I could do that every day. I do that in short bursts infrequently. That's my style.
I love it. How cool. Yeah. That is so fun. And you did a live demo with Surefoot. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I had 6 horses, which in 45 minutes. So I was busy. Let's put it that way. But
you were.
The crowd loved it. They loved it, and they got it. They saw the change because we had a little bit of a challenge with some driving horses that went by, and a couple of them got a little upset. But then I used the Surefoot pads, and they calm right down. And I had it. Yeah, I had this draft horse, and she was ace. She was like, the woman was like, be careful. She was big. I was standing in front. She's like, be careful. I'm like, why? She might run you over. No, she wouldn't. And I did the pads, and the next thing her neck is down, and she was yawning. I just love it. So cool.
Yeah.
An equine affair, for anyone who's not been there, it's everything. And you just see things that you're like,
all, yeah.
I mean, you get it all. And the dressage rider in me is like, what is happening? you see everything. Zorro. I mean, I had the pleasure of doing Fantasia there with my international horse Casper. And it was wonderful. It was so cool. It was sold out, 3 nights, sold out crowd. The first night he was a little bit nervous. The second night he's like, this is fun. By the third night, he's like, listen, that glitter's gotta go. I'm like, oh no, we're doing this again, big guy. We're showtime. Yeah. One more time. He's like, are you kidding me? But he was pretty good to the very end, and literally Zorro came around the corner and like did his whip, and I also almost died. I almost had a heart attack on top of the horse. The horse almost had it was awful. But you really see it all there. Everything you can imagine and more.
Survived.
Yeah,
tell the tale.
So did you. So when you told me you did a live demo, I was like, you're amazing. That's
the fun of it. Let's see what's going to happen, and it's real. It's either works or it doesn't, and it did.
Again, that's why Wendy is fun, and I'm not. I just about had a heart attack the entire time.
You're a dressage rider. Everything has to be under control.
Exactly. That's right. So what I was going to ask is, what is the most you do a lot of these demos out there, with Surefoot and that kind of stuff. So what is the most common question that people have for you?
Well, it's changed. It used to be, do you strap it to their feet? That was in the beginning. It was like, no, don't strap it to their feet. it's really interesting that I'm not getting the kind of weird questions I used to get. I think it's been out there enough that people are starting to get it and they're starting to see it. Because I know the number one question. Which pad should I start with? That's the number. Which pad should I start with?
That's fair. That's
How do
the
I
number
start?
one
Yeah,
question.
where's my starting point?
Okay. And so I have a quiz on the shop on shop.surefoot.equine.com. There's a quiz and you just take the quiz and it really is helpful because typically, if it's anything but calm, you start with hard. And if it's calm, you can start with firm. But it's like just stick with the simple things. And, people are surprised when I tell them that. But it's like starting any exercise program. If you go to physical therapy, they don't start you with the hardest thing first. They start you with something that's, to kind of get you started and get you going. And then they gradually increase the difficulty. So that's why you got to start with hard, which is the most stable pad, especially if you're dealing with any of these nervous horses, right? And then your firm starts having some lateral instability. So you can start, they can sway a little bit more on that and they can move a little more. So, I always tell people, start simple, start with hard slants or a half physio pad and just test the waters and see what happens. I had a woman that actually, while I was there, bought 2 half physio pads, went home, used them with her horse, had such amazing results. She came back and bought a pair of firm slants.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yep. She was so excited about what she saw, the changes she saw on her horse just from the half physio pad that she came back. And it was great. She showed me videos. Of her horse right there. It's so awesome.
I love it.
Really
That sounds
nice.
amazing.
Yeah,
that
it's really
super cool. I love it.
Before I forget, I got to tell you, I got 2 slots open for Safari because we had a cancellation. So I have 2 slots for Safari in September 11 to 19th. And so if anybody wants to join me on Safari, you don't have to ride. You can be in the vehicle. It's okay. If you don't want to be on horseback, it's totally fine. You got a spouse and it's 9 days on the Masai Mara and it's mobile tent camp. It's glamping. It's so gourmet.
I would do this. This sounds like a dream. It's during my regionals.
Bummer.
I'm going to do this, Wendy, with you. This is so great. The riding, everybody, because again, we've talked about Reese is not very brave. Wendy's like, you can ride and I have been on safari before in South Africa and it is life changing. And seriously, if it wasn't during my regional championships, I would be like, I'm doing it. I'm coming.
Awesome.
And,
and it is like, TJ, we've had people that have gone on safari and they've, they come home and make huge decision changes. They were like trying to make decisions and Brad always says the Mara knows what you need. And it's so you just get out there. It's so peaceful. And it's so, I don't know what it is about the land, but it's amazing. And it just helps clarify, right? You just get really clear about what life's about. It's really cool.
Yeah. It's Africa's amazing. It's a cool thing. I truly would be on that plane if it wasn't literally the same weekend, but I'm coming with you, Wendy. That is my bucket list goal. So I'm just saying. Well, I love it. Well, Wendy, how can we find where you've been, what you're up to? Where can we find all your info?
Okay, so you can go to murdochmethod.com and you can go to the Safari tab and learn more about Safari or just email me at wendy@wendymurdoch.com. That's easy for people to remember, right? It's my name with an H. And just remember, I got the whole rider course coming up. Well, I'll be putting out more information on Facebook. You can find information there at the Murdoch Method Facebook page. And, Surefoot, always there's the Surefoot page and the shop surefootequine.com. So, if you get, I'm going to make a flow chart. Because I'm getting confused.
I love a good flow chart. Me too. Yeah. That would be awesome. Well, Wendy, thank you as always. And seriously, checking the bucket list for me. I'm coming with you, girl.
All right. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, girl, we'll have a blast.
Well,
as always, we love having you. Thanks for coming on. And we can't wait for next month to hear about more adventures.
Great to talk to you. Take care.
Well, Phil, we have a trainer tip of the week this week. You and I saw some things online and we wanted to just discuss a little bit about sort of finding the right trainer, kind of setting yourself up for success, but also if it doesn't work, how to kind of kindly exit the relationship. So basically what we saw online was that a rider did not like the methods that the trainer was using, but you could kind of see when you watched or listened to this story, and we don't know the story. I just happened to pull it off and wanted to chat about it because I thought it was important about finding the right trainer. And that is, I think it's important when you want to find the correct trainer that you set yourself up for success, right? Wouldn't you say?
I get a bunch of emails about, I'm looking for a trainer, blah, blah, blah. So I think you should prepare the person you've contacted in an email or in a message or in a phone call. Like, here's what I'm looking for, right? Like, what is the goal? Before I even say yes or no, or, I can help you, or I don't think I can help you. You've got to kind of match, what are the goals, but before, when contacting the person, right? And
right.
What are your values? What are you trying to achieve? These kinds of things, and then the person say, I think I can, I think I might be a good match or whatever, because it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like dating.
Yeah.
Like,
hey,
this is what I'm about. What's your specialty? So I think people know from the way I discuss things. I mean, I'm kind of a competition trainer. So first and foremost, are you licensed, certified, insured?
Yes.
Reese and I talk about this as being, the starting point, right? Because if you are none of those things, how are you qualified to coach people to ride?
Yes. I think that's really important too, Phil. I think when you work with someone that's certified, they have been at least evaluated by a group of trainers.
And somebody else has said, this person is, qualified to coach.
Yes.
So,
you've had some basic medical training, right? Yeah. You've had, we have to pass technical, you have to pass, a theoretical exam. You've had doesn't make all certified people perfect, right? We all struggle with being better, but it is somebody that is taking the initiative to get a credential. So, we also understand in the US and in Canada or throughout the world, it is difficult to find certified people sometimes. So sometimes that's not an option in your area. Boy, it would be good if people really started to have that as a requirement, right? I think that would be helpful for all, right? Because a lot of trainers sometimes, if they've done really well in competition, right? Sometimes those people can't teach because they've not been trained to teach, right? Sometimes they're great. Right.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that people who are certified are not all great trainers, and everybody who is, every trainer that's not certified isn't, a problem. But I think it's a starting point.
Yes. 100%. And British Horse Society, there's a lot of different organizations, right? In the US, there's obviously the USDF certification. In Canada, it's Dressage Canada.
Equine Canada. Yeah.
Equine, sorry. It was so close. But again, British Horse Society, there are other organizations as well, depending on where you're going. So I 100% agree that you should go first to your certified people. Then truly, I also think that you should go to competitions and you should watch, right? You should look around and you should look and see how people's students are turned out, how the horses look, how the professional looks. I think that all is part of this, right? It's not necessarily a popularity contest. That's actually really important to say, but just watch, right? Sometimes just looking, if you go and the horses are beautifully turned out, the riders are, a professional looking rider versus a non-professional looking rider, right? I think that's really important to also look at. Also, you have your association, right? You can see in the year-end standings. That's another way of kind of looking at how riders are and how their students are doing. And then I think, obviously, word of mouth is really important. And that's kind of where I wanted to come in and say, not every trainer is going to get along with every rider, right? And that's the dating part. And I will say, I mean, I have wonderful students that have come. I've had people come and go. Like, it happens, right? It's kind of like also having a doctor, right? You may go to a doctor, you may think, okay, this is the doctor for me. And then they're just not for you. And that's okay, right? So usually you will move on. The problem is in our sport, a lot of times it's such a small community of riders and coaches, right? So it's hard to move on, and it's emotional to move on. But when you're looking at trainers and you're maybe watching at a competition, or maybe you go to a clinic or something, and you're just kind of evaluating that person. If you're really into, for example, classical dressage, and good, bad, or indifferent, that's not the point, but you go to then a competition trainer, those goals may not match up, right, Phil?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with that.
And that's where I think, like, the more communication before you even get that person out to your farm, or before you ever even start working together, you would make yourself clearly known that these are my goals and this is what I want to get out of it, and this is so there's lots of discussion before anyone sets foot in your arena, or however that goes, so that the person arriving there has heard you, has accepted that contract, and is willing to help you in whatever you need to do, right? And how you can match methods as well, right? So that's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think matching methods are certain things. And then I think when you go for a lesson, sometimes everyone's going to have a little bit of a different way of doing things. And so I love, Phil, that you said that. Like, if you're coming for a lesson, at my farm, or let's say, I was just in Florida and I would go to someone's lesson, right? So I put myself in the role of the student versus the coach, right? And so when I'm ready to go for my lesson, the first thing I say is, what are the instructions when I get to the farm? How do I get in? In Florida, there's 2,000 gates. What are the codes? What time would you like me to arrive, right? What time do I need to be on my horse? Would you like my horse warmed up? Would you like to see my horse, fresh, basically just getting on? Is there a place to lunch if you were to need to lunch? Is there a safe place to do that? If I need to do that, is it okay that I come 15 minutes early? I think it's important, to have that communication so you have that contract. Some coaches may say, gosh, I would really love it for you to come and be warmed up 15 minutes ahead of your lesson time. So if you start at 12:30, you're on at 12:15, right? And I usually ask that ahead of time. What time would you like me to arrive, and what time would you like me on my horse? The worst thing you can do for a lesson is roll up with a trailer and your lesson starts at 1:30 and you pull in at 1:28. That's not enough time, right, for anybody. So I think that's really important that you just say that out loud, because some coaches may want you on. Some may say, hey, I'd like to see your warm up, or hey, I want to see start to finish what you're doing. Right. So, come at 1:30 and let me see the whole shebang, or, hey, we're working on getting ready for a competition. Yeah, I want to see X or Y. And sometimes your coach may not say it. And I think that's the other thing, is sometimes coaches will have things that they're particular about, and you may not understand why at the time, and they may not have time to explain it. So, for example, this happened this week. I had a student come and ride on a younger horse, and I was on a horse, but she was getting on, and I said, oh, I'm happy to, get somebody down here to help hold him. Because one of the things I like is I want my horses to stand at the mounting block, right? That's really important to me, because I almost broke my back. I don't really necessarily want to run out and tell you why I want somebody to help you get on that freshly off the track horse, but I actually feel more comfortable with that, for example. So I think sometimes your trainer may not always tell you exactly why they want you to do something at the time. And sometimes I think it's important to, so this girl's like, no, I can get on, I'm fine. And then, doesn't get bucked off, but it's not the prettiest landing, if you know what I'm saying. I was like, boy, I wish I would have had her do that. Or just had my assistant come down and just give her a hand. So I think it's important sometimes when your trainer says something to not get upset, in the moment, maybe, and when things quiet down for whatever reason, right? Go back and maybe ask them why they were doing a certain thing, right? I think that's important. I think timing sometimes is really important. What do you think, Phil? Sometimes I don't have time to explain why I want it done a certain way, but boy, when I have a few seconds and things have calmed down, I'm happy to explain it. So does that make sense, Phil, where I'm going with that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm big on that, the mounting technique as well. Even if it takes an extra 15 minutes to get on a horse, they have to stand, because you do not, I mean, that's very vulnerable time, for a rider. And so I think I've said before on the show, it's like, that's, not mounting from the ground and taking them over to the mounting block, calmly waiting, teaching them to stand and wait and relax. And then then you can get on. I mean, for myself, that's huge. And for my students and, everybody, it's for sure a safety thing. So there's lots of all these little things, right? And so,
absolutely. And I work with a lot of resources.
Get to know your trainer, and your trainer's got to get to know you. And, that's all part of, like, first lesson is like a first date, right? So
you're just kind of seeing if you're going to get to the second one. It may be like, you know what? And then, I think that we've all had moments where we're not happy with what's going on. And I think as long as no one's getting injured, you should hear that trainer out in a way. You know what I mean? Like, there are times, again, I'm not saying don't ever stop a lesson, because I certainly have before when I think things have been unfair, but, hopefully it's not to that point. And then truly, if it's not working out, that's okay. That's okay. But just don't call for another lesson. I think going online and bashing trainers and, oh man, I don't like it, because, you also don't know. I think that's the empathy I have for that trainer, because we're all human. Sometimes we have bad days. Sometimes we maybe had a phone call before we're coming in the ring that's personal. You don't know. So I think it's okay that if it's not going to work, you just calmly say, thank you so much for your services, but I just don't think that's the right one for me. Right. And I think that's totally fine.
And you're fine. And if, people can accept that, like you don't feel like you're making any progress or whatever it is.
Yeah. Whatever it is.
You don't have to take lessons, right? You don't have to.
No. Right? Not at all.
That's the way it goes. As a professional, we've all been there. And then, as long as people aren't mean about it, or, like if you're, it's just, I don't think you're the trainer for me, or,
Yeah. We have different styles, whatever. It's totally fine. Yeah. But, I think we should be kind about that. And there are literally 1,000 ways to roam. There's lots of ways to train horses. And there's lots of ways now that you can find people. You have access to internet and, virtual lessons and all kinds of things. And so, I think that's okay if you find somebody it's not the right date, right? You just don't go on that date again, or you go and move forward. So, I hope this helps. I like I said, the conversation online kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I said to Phil, I really wanted to take a little time today to talk about it. And, again, take your time finding the right person. It could be a bad day for a trainer. We're not always perfect. I know I'm not always perfect. Sometimes I'm grumpy and I haven't had a snack, and that's not good. So I need a moment to go get a cup of coffee.
A tip for a trainer is to, like, don't show up to a lesson hungry. Always make time for snacks.
Makes time for snacks. Exactly. So, that we're human too. And some days it's not our best day. Some days here on the podcast, we don't have our best days. We get to tag team if we're not having the best day, but that's definitely a thing. And so I hope that helps. And I hope you're able to find a great trainer, because there's nothing better than having a great relationship with your coach. It's a lot of fun. And it can be really life-changing, right? I so appreciate my coaches and so thankful for all they've done for me. So, I'm glad for those relationships and very thankful for that. And, and then there are lots of different trainers around. So I hope this helps. And I hope you have many fun years with your coach. As always, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our page at horseradionetwork.com. Just search Dressage Radio Show. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email, please feel free to use it, is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
I think the best way to find me is probably through Facebook, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a good show. That's Kentucky Performance Products and the Murdoch Method. If you'd like to support our show and the Horse Radio Network, you can do that through the auditor program found at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we will talk to you in a couple weeks.